Welcome to the MSJC Internet Authoring Videocast.
In this video, you'll be learning how to complete review assignment number 3. In this review assignment, Anne is our client, and she wants us to work on another page for the Pandasia Chocolates website. This page is going to contain information on some of the specials that are offered by the company in March. It will also display a list of some awards that the company has won. And as we work on the page, we're going to use some clip art images as placeholders until the photographs of the actual awards are available. And a preview of the completed page is shown here. So this is the specials page, and you can see that we're going to organize some of the products into different groupings here, and then on the right you can see we've got a scroll list of the awards that are going to be displayed with those placeholder images. So to get started, in step 1 here, we're going to open up the PC specials _txt.html and PC specials _txt.css files. Add our name and date in each, and then save them without the _txt portion. So we'll end up with PC specials.html and PC specials.css. So here we are in our editor. We'll go ahead and open up specials.css and specials.txt.html. We'll add our author information. Add our date. And then remember, when we do the file save as, we get rid of the _txt in the file name there. So it ends up PC specials.html. Same thing for the style sheet. Name and date. And then we do a save as and remove the _txt. So it ends up being PC specials.css. Now in step 2, we're going to open up the PC specials HTML file. And within the document head, we want to create the links then for the style sheets. So Anne has already created 2 style sheets that we use here, the PC reset2.css, PC _styles4.css, and then we're going to be working on the PC specials.css. So we go into our HTML page, into the head section here, right underneath of the title, and we're going to go ahead and add those 3 links. So the href value for the first one is PC reset2.css, relationship style sheet. The second link, href, is PC styles4.css, also relationship with style sheet. And the third one is the PC specials.css, relationship style sheet. So we need to add those 3 links in there so that we can have our HTML page pull in the styles that are defined within those 3 documents. Now on the next page, step 3, we're just going to take a look at the content and the structure of the document, and it asks us to pay careful attention to the use of the IDs and the class names within the file. So we'll just take a look at it here in source view. You can see under the body now we've got a header here with an image, then a navigational structure which is classed as horizontal. Then underneath the header we've got a div. It's been classed as new row. And then inside of that div new row now we've got these other divs, each one with its own class name. So we've got the class which is call-2-3, then an article, an H1, and a paragraph in there. Then we have this div that's classed as new row, and it has a div in it that is class dash one, or column col dash 1 dash 3, and specials. So notice we're adding two class names in there, col dash 1 dash 3 and also specials. Then an image with an H1 paragraph and another paragraph with an href in there, or an anchor in there that reads order now. Then another div that's col dash 1 dash 3, again got the additional specials in there. Second class name, same format as above, image H1, 3 paragraphs. Then we've got this div which is classed col dash 1 dash 3. So each, basically what they're doing here is that they've set up a style that's, you know, 1/3 of the spacing for each of these divs. And so that ends the outer div here. Let me go ahead and collapse it just to show you. So we started right here with new row. Inside of new row, then we've got the 2/3, or the col dash 2 dash 3, so 2/3 of the page. So when we collapse that one now, you can see we've got another column that is the remaining third. So that's that column where we have the scroll bar with all the different awards inside of it. So inside of this one here, again classed as col dash 1 dash 3, and then it has an ID of award list. And then each of the, after the H1 header here, each of these divs you can see has a class of awards. So those will all be formatted using the same selector. But then also we've got the individual ID of each award so that we can tweak them individually if we want to. So here we've got ID Award 1, ID Award 2, ID Award 3, and ID Award 4, and then ID Award 5. So that's basically the two groupings that we have there on the page. This class, which is the column of dash 2 dash 3, and then the class with the column of dash 1 dash 3. So the first 2/3 on the left, and then the remaining third on the right. And then just a footer down at the bottom there. So that is the structure of the page, and now I haven't made a change yet. You can see when I put the link references there in the head section, I didn't save the document. And I can tell that visually. Remember, when you have the asterisk beside the file name there up in the tab, that tells us it hasn't been saved yet. So I'll do a Control S there to save that. Now in step 4, they have us go into the pc_specials.css file, and within the page body styles section. So they've added comments in there that have created sections within the style sheet for us to work in. So in the page body styles section, we're going to add a style rule for the body element, and that's going to set the width of the page to 95% of the browser window width, and that'll be within the range of 640 to 960 pixels. So basically a max width of 960 pixels and a minimum width of 640 pixels. Then also we want to set up a horizontal center for the page body within the window by setting the left and right margins to auto. So we're switching over into PC_specials CSS, going down here into this page body styles section, and then we're going to create a rule for the body. So body is the selector, and then in the curly brace we've got these declarations. So they start off with margin dash left and margin dash right is auto. The width is set to 95%, and then we have the max width 960 pixels and the minimum width 640 pixels. So I'll save that with a Control S, go back to the next instruction. Step 5 now, go to the image styles section that's in that style sheet and create a rule that displays all of the image elements as blocks with a width of 100%. So wherever we put those image elements will be 100% of the container that they are within. So we're down here into image styles. Let me take the spacing out of there. And then we're just going to use IMG for the selector. That's the image tag. And then we use the display property, set its value to block, and then the width property, set its value to 100%. Save our work, Control S. Up to step 6 now, and wants the navigation list to be displayed horizontally on the page. So we're going to go to the horizontal navigation styles section of the style sheet and create a style rule for every list item within a horizontal navigational list that displays the list, or the list item I should say, as a block floated on the left margin with a width of 16.66%. So we're going down into this section of the style sheet now, the horizontal navigational styles. The nav, you might recall, that they're referring to here has a class of horizontal in it. So we're going to use that as our selector here, nav.horizontal, and then specifically we want to target the list items within that structure. So if you look at it, it is a UL, so unordered list, and we want to target then all these LIs that are inside of it. So we use the display property to make them blocks. We set the float property to a value of left, and then the width 16.66%. Save that change, Control S. Step 7 now, we want to display every hypertext link nested within a navigational list item as a block. So we use that same selector previously, the nav.horizontal, but we just use A now as the actual selector, because we're targeting the anchors that are within the list item. So when we look here, we've got these anchors inside of each list item. So the selector, as I said, is going to be nav.horizontal, this time targeting the anchors, and all we need to do here is just add the display property and set its value to block, and then Control S to save that change. Step 8 now, we're going to create the style rules for the grid section of the March Specials page. So we're going to go into the style sheet to the row styles section, and then for every div element of the new row class, we create a style rule that displays the element with a width of 100%, and only when all floated items or floated elements have been cleared. So that means that we're going to have to use a clear both situation there. Using the technique from this tutorial, add another style rule that uses the after pseudo element to expand each new row class of the div element around its floating columns. So let's take them one by one here. First, under the heading row styles here, we're going to add the div.newRow selector. So that's these divs that we have here inside of the 2/3 columns class div. There's 3 of them there. Don't believe we have new row in here for the awards at all. No, it's just in this one here. So we're targeting new row, those 3 divs, and we're making sure that we clear each item on both sides and then set the width to 100%. Now the second thing that we needed to do is to use the pseudo after selector. So that's div.newRow and then ;: after, that's the pseudo selector. Again, we're going to set the clear property to both. We'll set the clear or the content property to empty, which is just a pair of quotes there, and then change its display property to a value of table. Save that change, Control S. In step 9 now, we're going to format the grid columns. We're going to go to the column styles section in the style sheet, create a style rule to float all the div elements with the class that starts with a value of COL dash. So, you know, we've got the COL dash 2-3 and we have the COL dash 1.3. So what that tells you is we're going to use an attribute selector there. So for each of those classes, we're going to float them to the left. We'll set the padding around each element to 2%, and then apply a border box sizing model, so that way everything is contained within the box itself. With the border box sizing, when we add borders and any type of an element that adds thickness to the element, it doesn't increase it in size, which is the default if we don't use that. Now, in addition, in this note here, it says that we want to remember to use web extensions to provide support for older browsers. So we'll use the WebKit, the Mozilla in the property names to be able to support those older browsers. Okay, so here is our selector. It's going to be for all div elements that have the attribute of class equals, and then the class name begins with COL dash. Then the properties are float left, padding 2% all the way around, and then we want to set the box sizing to border, but we also want to have the support for the older browsers, so we've got the dash WebKit dash and then the property name, which is box sizing. Also Mozilla, which is your Firefox. So WebKit, that's going to be Safari and Chrome. Mozilla is going to be Firefox. So just those are appended to the beginning, or prepended to the property name to represent the different browsers. And then we just set the value of the box sizing in all three cases. So here's the normal box sizing property without any of the vendor specific names added before it. And then border box is the value. Save that, Control S. So you can just see that rule is going to target then all of these divs here. So the outer div, the 2/3 column, and then the inner ones that are 1/3 of the 2/3 column, and then also this final 1/3 column that is going to be the awards column. In step 10 now, in the same section of the style sheet, we're going to create rules then for div elements that have the class of call 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 2-3, 1-4, 3-4, and then set their widths to these widths here respectively. So the call 1-1, that's 100%. The call 1-2, that's a half, so 50%. The call 1-3, that's a third, so 33%. Call 2-3, that's going to be 2/3, so 66.67%. And then call 1-4 is a quarter, so 25%. And call 3-4 is 3/4, so 75%. So we'll just create a rule for each of those. So there's the 100%, the call 1-1, 100%, the call 1-2, 50%, 1-3 is 33.33, 2.3 or 2-3 I should say, is 66.67%, the 1-4, 25%, and the 3-4, 75%. So each one of those is its own rule. Save that. In step 11 now, we're going to move down to the specials styles section. And in this section, we're going to create styles for the monthly specials. We'll create a style rule for all div elements of the specials class that sets the minimum height to 400 pixels, and then also adds a 1 pixel dashed outline around the element. Now it's important that you're using outline here because we're not applying, like we did up here, the border box sizing property to it. And so that means that when we add the border, it will gain in width by a pixel, top, left, bottom, and right, if we use the border property. But we're not. We're going to use the outline property, and that's the significance of using the outline property, is it does not increase the size of the element by the size of the outline. So it'll be a 1 pixel dashed outline around the element, and it'll have a color value of RGB, red, green, blue, 71 for the red, 52 for the green, and 29 for the blue. So that's going to be down here in this special styles section. So we're targeting the div that's classed as specials. We're setting its minimum height to 400 pixels, and then that outline 1 pixel wide, dashed is the style, and its color is RGB 71, 52, 29. Save that. In step 12, now we go to the award styles section in the style sheet. And in that section, we're going to create styles for the list of awards won by Pandasia Chocolates. Information boxes for the awards are placed within the div element with the ID of award list. We will create a style rule for this element that places it using relative positioning, sets its height to 650 pixels, and automatically displays scroll bars for any overflow content. So that's just overflow auto if you think back to the tutorial. So that's under award styles here. And remember, we're targeting the div that has the ID of award list. We're using the position property, setting its value to relative, so it's relative within the flow of the HTML document. The height, 650 pixels, and then the overflow, which means all the content that exceeds the depth of that div will have a scroll bar displayed so that you can scroll up and down and see all the content. So overflow is set to auto, which could be left and right too if it wasn't wide enough to control to hold them. But I know for this particular assignment it's going to be a depth issue, that there's too much depth for the box because we set the height there to 650 pixels. So if it's exceeding that 650 pixels, then we get a vertical scroll bar so we can scroll up and down. Control S to save that. In step 13 now, every information box in the award list element is stored in a div element that belongs to the awards class. You remember we showed you that earlier. And so we'll create a style rule that places these elements with absolute positioning and then sets their width to 30%. So we want all of the items within that particular element, the one that's been classed as awards, to be 30%. That's a pretty simple one. The selector is just div.awards, so it's the div with the class of awards, or all of the divs that have been classed with awards. And then we want to make each one of them 30% and set their position to absolute, because then you're going to see in the next instruction here that will actually position then each of the elements, each of the awards individually. So that's step 14 now. Position the individual awards within the award list box by creating style rules for the div elements with the ID values ranging from award 1 to award 5. So that's the IDs, right? Award 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then they give us the top left coordinates. So the alignment to the top, or positioning I should say, then to the top, and the positioning by the left coordinate. So for award 1, it's 80 pixels from the top, 5% from the left. Award 2 is 280 pixels from the top, 60% from the left. Award 3 is 400 pixels from the top, 20% from the left. Award 4, 630 pixels down, and from the left, 45%. And then award 5 is 750 pixels down and 5% from the left. And they give us a hint here. It says in the PC specials.html file, the 5 awards have been placed in a div element belonging to the awards class with the ID values ranging from award 1 to award 5. Well, hopefully you already figured that out. You're going to use these ID values as your selectors for these specific top and left coordinates. So I'm just going to go ahead and populate them all, and we'll go down one by one here. So there's the div that's ID'd as award 1, and we're moving it down from the top by 80 pixels, from the left 5%. Div award 2 down 280 pixels, from the left 60%. Div award 3 400 pixels down, from the left 20%. Award 4 down from the top 630 pixels, from the left 45%. And then the last award is award 5, and it's going to be 750 pixels down from the top and have a left value of 5%. So moved in the same distance as award 1, it's further down in the list. So we'll save that. In step 15 now we go to the footer style section and create a style rule for the body footer that displays the footer once both margins are clear, so clear colon both, anytime you hear both margins clear, you should just automatically think to yourself, oh, that's the clear property set to the value of both. And what it does is basically when there's floated elements, the elements that are below the floated elements sometimes can slip up and be to the right or the left depending on how they're floated. But anyway, the elements below, you want to make sure they clear your floated elements. So you use the clear property, and here we're just making sure that there's nothing to the left, nothing to the right, so we do clear both. And that's a pretty simple one. Just simply footer as your selector, and then clear colon both. So let's save the style sheet now. Let's go ahead and preview the HTML document in our browser. And there you can see it. So here's the 3 divs that are inside of the 2/3 div. So this whole area from those 3 around those 3 boxes is your 2/3 div, and then remember you have a 1/3 div inside of that 2/3 div, and that's how we're getting these boxes here, and they've got their dashed border around each of those boxes, each of those divs. And then over to the right, there's our awards, and each award, so this is award 1, and award 2, award 3, award 4, and award 5. So they're all set to 30% as far as their width is concerned, and then we just, in using absolute positioning, we identified how far down and how far from the left each one of these awards would be displayed within this 1/3 column over here on the right. And then the last thing we did was just to make sure that the footer clears all of these floated items that we have here, so we did a clear both there. So that's pretty much it for assignment 3. Until next time, happy coding. If you liked this video, please click the like button and leave us a comment down below. I also would appreciate it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, click the notification bell so that you'll be notified when new videos are posted.